Hello everybody and welcome back to the Lore Locals channel. It's 2 deck profiles in 2 days. I'm spoiling you guys. I told you I was building a new deck. I told you it was another super consistent mid-range deck. If you missed my spiel in the GoTee video, first off, you should go watch that. But if you don't have the time or you've already watched it, just a quick reminder, I do not like combo decks. I do not like stuff like Dragon Link, Dinosaurs, these things where I'm going through a million cards to get to a stupid board of 18,000 negates that my opponent's just going to look at and go, okay, let's move on to game 2. I do not want it to be, okay, I'm going to set up a ginormous board of 12,000 negates, and you either break it or you scoop on the spot. That's not how I want to play. That's not how I want to do it. I don't want to brick. I hate bricking, and I also hate having to think because I've determined I think I'm just not smart enough for combo decks, and I'm perfectly happy with that. So when I go looking for an archetype, I go looking for an archetype often with many, many one-card starters, but the combo lines isn't that complicated. And boy, oh boy, Scareclaw delivers. I mean, the first deck I ever played after coming back from the game was Salomon Great. Balinks always adds the field spell. And look at Lightheart. I mean, this is just Balinks. This looks like Balinks, right? This looks exactly like Balinks. So if you show me a Link 1 that can be made with an archetype monster and it searches the archetypal field spell, like I'm already on cloud 9. So Scareclaw is what we're doing today. I really like this deck. I think the defense mode stuff is interesting, and it makes for some interesting interruptions. I mean, like, obviously Baguska is sort of the effect, the defense mode effect is objectively better than Tryhart's defense mode effect, but like you can't activate effects either. So the Tryhart turn everything to defense mode effect is really interesting, and that makes the whole dynamic of keeping everything in defense mode where I power up this one monster but also have combo lines, can also make them into other things, is really fun. So without further ado, let's get into this. I'll show the basic combo and a test hand at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But without further ado, let's begin. For the Scareclaws, we have, for our monsters, 3 right card, because it's good. 3 Acro, 2 Astra, 1 Balone. I like these numbers. Some lists are playing 3 of each. I started out at 3 of each, but I don't think it's necessary. A single Scareclaw will get you into Tryhart, and so opening multiples really isn't super helpful. Like, opening 2 means you get to search for Twin Saw or Splash with Reichart, which is fine, but that means you are essentially the same as opening 1 Scareclaw and a separate interruption or going second card. So 2 isn't that great. 3 doesn't do much either because you can't do very much with the extra. And so you would need 1 of each Scareclaw if you're going to go into like IP and Tryhart. Right, because you think normal, Link, Reichart, Search, Arrival. I guess you would need a number of combinations, but you would need several extenders to get into IP plus Tryhart, and that just doesn't seem tenable. What I've done here instead is I'd rather make it so I often see at least 1 Scareclaw, because we still are running, 9 Scareclaws here, and we will see at least 1 Scareclaw, and then that gets us into Tryhart. Occasionally, if we see a second, we can go into a Splash or a Twin Saw anyway. But that also opens up the rest of the deck for separate packages and separate, very strong either board breakers or interruptions on their own. So I really like this lineup. I think you could absolutely argue for running 3 of each, but I think these are fine. A note on the numbers. Balone, I think, is the worst one. I don't think we're trying to OTK. As in my testing, OTKing with Tryhart is not the main deal. Being able to break everything of the opponents and not get run over ourselves is the deal. So with that, we're doing 3 Acro, because Acro is the attack position pump, or is the, attack stat pump, and we really want that the most so nothing can run over our Tryhart. Astra is secondary because being able to attack everything is good. And then we just have 1 Balone because you can search it out with Tryhart if you want to go for an OTK, and that's really all we need. Field spell. 2. We're running 2 just because you can make a second Lightheart and getting the second activation is fine. This isn't Salomon Great Sanctuary where the second copy is literally useless. You will often make another primitive planet on the follow-up. That being said, you don't want to break on this. Seeing 1 in your hand is awful. You don't ever want to see this in your opener because you're always going to search it with a Scareclaw. The only situation where you wouldn't want to see it is if you have no Scareclaws, and then you can search out a thing. But even then, you can't go into tryhard, and so it's just kind of hard from there. So we run 2. 3 is too much. 1 is too few. So 2 is the right number. 2 arrival, another similar thing. Opening this is a lot more fun because it takes the place of opening a second Scareclaw so that you can search out either Twin Saw or Splash with Reichardt. So it's useful, and oftentimes if you're trying to follow up, you're trying to just get more link material, it's great. It's not a once per turn on the revival effect. Let me double check that. Yes, it is not a once per turn on the revival effect, so you can just make it, which is fine. Or, like, if you draw 2 and you have a Scareclaw, you can just keep bringing it back for more and more material, which is great. So 2 is fine. I don't want to brick. Again, I don't want to see too many of these. Since we can search it with Reichardt, we'll often search it with Reichardt. So 2 is the right number. Splash, Twin Saw. I mean, this is either Icarus attack or this is an Omni. Search out whichever one depends on your hand. We have other destruction options in our deck, so you're more often going to be searching Splash. But Twin Saw is, also relevant. If you're up against another Link deck, search Twin Saw so that you can keep activating, so you can keep your opponent from activating Link monster effects. It's just good. So that's our Scareclaw lineup. Moving on to our secondary package. I am poor, so instead of playing what everybody else is playing, the adventure package, we are playing the Dogmatika package. 1 Ecclesia, 1 Fleur, 3 Nadir, 1 Punishment. Nadir's back to 3, people! More consistency. These are the numbers. I've seen some argue to play 3 Punishment, 3 Ecclesia, but I don't think that's as useful. Again, we don't want to brick on multiple of these, and while Punishment is good, I don't want to lock myself out of the extra deck for that long. It's a good interruption, but at some point we're going to run out of good things to send with it, and locking ourselves out of the extra deck is too much. So, just 6. This is a really perfectly happy thing. If you open Nadir and a Scareclaw, you can go into Tryhard, Nadir for Titaniclad, get Ecclesia, get Punishment, and get Fleur. 1 Nadir gets you your entire package, which is what we want to see. So that is the Dogmatika cards. Just our real quick non-defense, just general support cards. 2 Pot of Desires. We are super consistent. You just need 1 Scareclaw, and we're running redundancies of everything we really care about. Desires just a +2. Perfectly happy with this. The only thing that you're really worried about banishing is your Ecclesia, your Fleur, or your Punishment. But again, that's only a huge problem if you have Nadir or the other pieces and you can't search them. But if you have Nadir or the other pieces, just don't use Desires until the end of your turn to just draw into more board breakers. Go through all of your plays beforehand and end on Desire so you don't banish anything important, but you can draw into any number of our other strong cards. So Desires is quite good. I think I would definitely play Prospies over Desires if I had them, but I'm budget, folks. I'm playing Scareclaw. We're budget. Now for the defensive cards. Our engine is consistent. Starting with a single piece of it can get us into all of it. So we get to run a ton of defensive cards. First up, to Magnet, do Druid Swarm. Said in the last video, I'm poor. Can't go up to 3 of each of these. So we just play the 4 that we have. You do have darks. Lightheart is dark, and we aren't playing, as you noticed, we aren't playing Visa Starfrost. Talk a little bit about that after we go through the defensive cards. So you're not worried about banishing your Lightheart. Your Reichardt in the grave isn't super important because you can usually search it with another primitive planet. So you can actually, if you open a Magnum, you can use a Magnum as an extender to try and go into IP or something, and then just search out a Druid Swarm in the end phase. You have a lot of options here, which I really like. 2 alpha, 1 Pankratops. This is a 3rd alpha. This needs to be a 3rd alpha. I just only have 2 right now, and the 3rd's in the mail. I really, really like alpha, this format. I think if I had the money, I would be playing Kashtira Fenrir instead of alpha in this particular build. But without Kashtira Fenrir, I mean, alpha is a perfectly good budget option. A lot of times, the most powerful end boards these days from tier are like Rule Kalos and Dragos Depelia. So you can just make alpha, and if that's their end board, you can just special alpha and attempt to go to battle phase. And they either have to pop a Soliak then or something so that you don't get any value from attacking to go into their plays, or they have to try and stop you in some way, which is very hard. But in that instance, usually just go alpha, attack over the Dragostapelia. They can put a counter on it. It doesn't matter once Dragostapelia is gone. It's not coming back. And then second main, use Alpha's effect to bounce the rule close, and you've taken care of their whole board. Super useful. All of the Scareclaws except Reichheart are beasts. So if you start with Alpha and like a Scareclaw or two, you can normal a Scareclaw, special a Scareclaw. They're all 0 attack, so you haven't changed. Special Alpha, bounce Alpha, and then normal summon Scareclaw. Bounce 2 things of theirs, and then you can just re-special summon the Scareclaw that you normaled. There's a lot of good plays you can make with Alpha, and I really like it. Yeah, better than Pank because you can re-summon the Alpha afterwards, and you just have a 3k beater or an extender into other Link monsters. Quite good. That's our monsters. We're also playing 3 triple tack. Not a ton of activations for this from the Ishizu tier. I talked about this from Goatee a bit more, but they need like precisely their 1 Herald or a Havinus, which is 4 cards out of their deck. So it's kind of likely that they'll have it, but it's not super likely. Again, we're not really getting Kelbecked here. We're not sending anything from our hand or deck to the graveyard very often. I don't think we ever do, actually. Yeah, we don't have anything really that does that, so they can't really Kelbeck us, so they have to have an SS. So triple attack is online a lot of the time. What it is it against Rogue, people will often want to Ash your Lightheart or Ash your Reichphobia, and then this is online a lot in the Rogue matchups, and I think it's very useful. And it's just good going first or going second. In this deck, as opposed to the Goatee, we can make use of our opponent's monsters really well. I mean, Tryhard just requires effect monsters, so you can steal something with a triple tack if they've tried to interrupt you and go into your big plays anyway. So I much prefer triple tack in this deck, main deck, than I do in Goatee. 3 Super Poly. By way of our Dogmatika package, we are running Garura in the side, or in the extra, and since there are a couple of flex slots and there was 1 flex slot in the extra, I just tossed in, spoiler, Starving Venom. So this is online surprising amount of the time. You often will have cards in hand. You know, you get to search something with the Tryhard at the end of your combo. You get to search a lot of things, so you'll usually have a card to pop this with. And then, like, the really optimal scenario going second is you Super Poly your opponent into Garura and then just use your Garura to make Link monsters, and then you just get a free draw from it, so you get the card back that you dropped from it, and you've removed 2 of your opponent's things. I really like Super Poly in this deck. Again, we're just looking for, since our engine is so good, or engine is so consistent, we're just looking for cards that are great going first and going second. The worst going first card on this list is surprisingly Alpha, which is still even valid a lot of time because of the amount of Bestial. Obviously, you won't get Bestialed that much, but if they're scared of you having Visa Starfrost, they'll often Drew Swarm or Magnum at your Lightheart, at which case Alpha is suddenly online because most of your stuff's attack is really low. So I really like Super Poly in this deck. It's very good going first, very good going second. Just make sure you use Super Poly before you use Dogmatika Punishment, because you will not be able to use Super Poly after you use Dogmatika Punishment. So if you have both set, just remember, try and use Super Poly before you use Punishment, which should happen anyway. If they have 2 monsters in the field that you would Punishment, just Super Poly them away and save the Punishment for something else. 1 call by. I mean, come on, we're in tier format, guys. It's good. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm not even talking about it. And then 3 Imperm. Of all the hand traps, Imperm is the most useful for 2 reasons. 1, it doesn't activate triple tack. And you aren't really activating any monster effects on your opponents during your opponent's main phase. You're usually just letting your spells and traps and your Tryhard get through that. So you're not activating your opponent's triple tack very often. And it's just great going second as well. Sometimes, not very frequently, but sometimes you can get people with the Imperm column, and that's always fun. But there you go. That is our main deck. Let's go into the extra deck. We're running 2 Lightheart. I don't think you need more than this. You only have 2 Reichphobias, so it's like, why would I... Sorry, my phone and camera were doing something weird. It's like, why would I want more than 2 Lighthearts if I've only got 2 Reichphobias? There's no reason. So 2 Lightheart. 1 IP. This one, most of these are just options you can go to, except for Tryhard. But IP you can occasionally do if you have enough extenders, like if you drew Fleur, but you don't have a way into the Dogmatika package, you can just make Fleur and then use it as an extender to go in IP. You have the Bestials that you can do yourself. If you have an Alpha maybe or something like that, you can have an extra card. And usually having one extra card can get you into IP if you've got a good Scareclaw hand. And you actually summon a lot of monsters at the end of your combo that just sit there. Like, if you have IP, Scareclaw Tryheart will bring one back from the grave and another in your hand, so you can just special the one from your hand, and suddenly you've got Appaloosa material. At that point, you also have 1, 2, 3, 4. You also have Underworld Goddess material. Spoiler alert, that's some of the cards. So I really like IP as an option. It doesn't come out too often, but it comes out often enough. Unicorn, it's just an IP option. Good spinning. It's removal that does not destroy, so just good. 2 Tryhard. I've seen a lot of people play 3, but I'm like, well, why are we playing 3? When are we ever making 3 Tryhards? I mean, like, seriously, when are we making 3 Tryhards? If we have gone through 2 Tryhards, I think we've already lost at that point. You know, your goal is to try and keep Tryhard in the field, and it's actually surprisingly hard to remove Tryhard these days. They have to Primeval Planet it, which you have ways of popping in Splash and sending Entis off of punishment. I think that's it. Everything else is monster-based. Kaleidoheart can't hit it. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to remove a Tryhard, so I don't think you need 3. That being said, it's our big boss monster. It's very good. It's a floodgate of sorts, so we want to play multiples in case they do manage to remove it. It's good stuff. 1 Appaloosa. You just go into this as part of IP. I don't think you are ever able to make Appaloosa because you're going into Tryhard so often. I mean, you have enough monsters. You have the opportunity to go in Appaloosa sometimes, but I don't know why you would. Like, Tryhard is so much better at what it does. Appaloosa just gets run over, and then you're started over from nothing. Obviously, if you had another Scareclaw in hand, you can then go into Tryhard next turn. But I still think it's better to go into Tryhard for the floodgate. I mean, I don't know. I'll test it some more. Let me know what you think in the comments. But I don't think Appaloosa is the right thing to try and end on. Tryhard is. But that being said, it's your most often thing made with Masquerena, so we go into it. Boral Sword. This is just because I'm poor and I sold my access code. It's an OTK option. If they like remove your Tryhard or if you don't have piercing for some reason. That being said, this is a weird slot. I'm not stuck on this slot. I think if this were access code, it would be worth it, but Boral Sword might not be, especially because everything's going to be in defense so often. 1 Underworld Goddess. I mean, it's great. You spam monsters, folks. Like, you can get monsters on the field like nobody's business, and then you can just link them away into Underworld Goddess. And then it negates everything on the field, and then it's unaffected, and then it can stop Rolkalos or Kaleidoheart from coming back. So it's a good card. Omega, this is just to send with Nadir. This is just to give you a little graveyard equity. We have a couple of good graveyard targets in that, so yeah, that's what Omega's for. We're not synchroing. We're not playing Starfrost. We don't have any tuners. 2 Entis. One for Nadir, 1 for punishment, because you're never really going to have to do that anymore, because once you Nadir, like, you don't have any options anymore. If I were running Prosperity, this would also just be a Prosperity send. That being said, if you have a better idea for another Dogmatika target, like another Dogmatika send, that would be really good. Please let me know. I can't think of any. I mean, we have Entis, we have Omega, we have Titaniclad, we have Garura, you know, we have Make It Engage, we have get both of our things, we have Pop something, we have Remove something from the graveyard. I can't think of any other really, really good sends. I mean, I guess we could play Farajit so that we could keep Garura for Super Poly, but still get the loot. But even then, I don't know how valuable it is. Still, if you have a better idea for something instead of the second Entis, let me know. I'm not sold on it. And 1 Starving Venom. We're running Super Poly. Having 2 Super Poly targets is good in case we draw multiples. And sometimes, you know, tier N boards, if they have Dragon's Depelia and Rule Kalos, I mean, you can make Venom, but you can't make Garura. So it's just useful. And then in the side deck, this side deck, if you just watch the Goatee profile, should look very familiar because I think you should be playing basically the same cards. I'll go through it really quick. 3 Dogwood for time. Card's good. 3 Nibiru. We just want to be able to break boards going second, and if they're a deck that's particularly destroyed by Nibiru, like Naturia is really, really susceptible to Nibiru, you can bring this in and it's it can be better than some instances. Like against Naturaria, it's probably better than triple tack in that instance. You'd rather have because if they make Beast, you're not triple tacking anyway. 3 Dark Ruler. This is a deck that can play Dark Ruler. I played Goatee for so long, I forgot how good this card is. Just Dark Ruler, and your problems are often solved. You can go into your Tri-Heart, you can make your things, you can clear their board with Tri-Heart, and then suddenly you're back in the driver's seat. Great card. Again, oftentimes we're not trying to OTK with Tri-Heart, so losing our ability to damage the opponent isn't super important. So Dark Ruler's good. 3 Evenly. Again, sometimes you got to break boards going second, and you want to be able to banish everything. This is especially good against back row decks. If I'm playing against Eldritch, heaven forbid, or Labyrinth, heaven forbid. This is really good. It's actually funny. No. This gets around Trap Trick stuff. Because Evenly Matched says you make your opponent banish cards from their field face down, once the Trap Trick structure deck comes out, Evenly Matched can get around that. It's kind of like Ferret Flames in that regard. So Evenly Matched is just good. And then 3D Barrier. If we know we're going first, we can swap this out for something, and this is a end your opponent's turn button in a lot of instances. Very quick side deck. And let's go over the combo real quick. So we're going to start with the basic Scareclaw combo. We're going to start with a single Scareclaw. So your hand is like Scareclaw, 4 defensive cards, say. So you go, okay, normal aggro, link aggro. Oh, that's my normal deck. Into, let me see that set on camera. Yes, Lightheart. Lightheart effect. Grab the field spell. Activate the field spell. Field spell grab. Reichardt. Special Reichardt. Reichardt effect. Grab a rival. Rival effect. Bring back Acro. Link 3 into our favorite boy. Tri-Heart. Let's assume you don't have Nadir, so you're not going to be doing any other special summon this turn, so you just go Tri-Heart. Special back Acro. It's an Earth monster. They can't Bestial it. Acro. Search. Now this is depending on what you think. If you're going second in this instance and you want to be able to break your opponent's board, you grab Astra, but you usually grab another Reichardt so you can search out your other arrival for follow-up. So now you've gone through your entire combo and you're ending still with the Scareclaw in hand and 4 defensive cards. Like if this is Super Poly, Triple Tack, Bestial, freaking Imperm. I mean, you're set. You've got a Floodgate. You've got a number of very good things. You've got cards to discard. This is great. 1 Scareclaw gets you exactly to where you want to be. That's the main combo. Let me shuffle up and I will show you a test hand real quick. These test hands are not going to be that complicated because it's usually just some form of, okay, let's make Tri-Heart and just set all of our interruptions. But I will see you on the flip side. All right. Let's do ourselves a test hand. Let's see what happens. We have Reichardt, Triple Tack, Reichardt, Twin Saw, Magnamut. This is actually very good because opening multiple Scareclaws of the same kind can actually do work for you because you can normal it and then also use its special summon effect. So we will normal Reichardt. We technically have 2 Scareclaws, so we do not need to get a rival. So we will use Reichardt's effect to get Splash. Everything on camera there? Yes, okay. To get Splash, because we already have Twin Saw. And from here, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. You just saw this combo, so say it with me. Link into Lightheart. Lightheart effect, search the field spell. Activate the field spell. Field spell effect to search out. In this case, we want to get our best non-Reichardt Scareclaw, which is Acro. We will special the Acro. We will special Reichardt. We will make Tri-Heart. We will simply use Tri-Heart's effect to bring back Acro and search out, let's think, probably just another Reichardt for, well, let's do this. So we we will likely have another planet. We will likely be able to get another Scareclaw back to hand next turn, because our Tri-Heart's likely going to stay on the field. So let's try this play. One of the plays is just grabbing a Reichart for follow-up, because that will always search you a rival and guarantee you a Scareclaw next turn to get a second copy of the field spell. But let's take the riskier play, because it does this. So we special Acro, we add Astra, and we special Astra. Now, if our opponent is unable to fight through some of our interruptions, we will already have the OTK, and we can get Tri-Heart search for... where is he? Next turn we can grab Balone to be able to try and OTK our opponent. Or we can use our Twin Saw to sacrifice the Astra and blow 2 things up without having to sacrifice the thing that's buffing our Scareclaw, or buffing our Tri-Heart. So I think that's probably the right play given what we have. We have a triple tack in case our opponent tries to interrupt us here if they have a Havness or something. We have a Bestial if they try to use a Havness or something. So we're in a pretty good position here. So we add the Astra, we special the Astra, and then we just set 2, pass to our opponent, and that's our end board. We have something that's floodgating our opponent, so they can't attack us. They're going to have to summon a Link monster or get rid of the Tri-Heart, and it is monstrously difficult to get rid of the Tri-Heart in this format. We have a Splash as an Omni. Always activate this in draw step. As soon as your opponent starts their turn, go in draw. I will activate Splash because it must already be face up to activate the effect. We have 2 pops, so usually you can use that for Primeval Planet. Because that's really the only thing that can get rid of Tri-Heart. I guess the only other thing that can get rid of it is Druis Worm. But you can negate you can negate that with Splash. Or if it is sent as activation or something, you can get rid of it before it sees itself in the grave. Regardless, you have a number of ways of keeping your Tri-Heart on the field. You have 2 pops, you have an Omni, you have a Bestial in your hand. And with this setup, you should be able to keep the Tri-Heart. Once we get to the next turn, we go, okay, and we drew a Scareclaw anyway. So it's like, okay, special Reichart, search out a Speller Trap, draw a card, planet something because there's 3 defense position monsters on the field. You have a lot of follow-up. Guys, this deck is really fun. I really, really like this deck. I think the defense position mechanic, while on the surface very simple, and it is very simple, is at least an interesting sort of line of play of just stopping everything from being in attack mode and just using Tri-Heart to run over everything. I think the consistency of the deck is a huge win, and the ability to run a sheer number of board breakers, extenders, interruptions, and powerful cards like the Bestials, like Triple Tack, like Super Poly is a big plus. A couple of notes on cards I'm not running. The Adventure Package is simply because I'm poor. If I had the Adventure Package, I would be running it. With the Adventure Package, you can set up an Omni to start, and it also gives you 2 defense position monsters, so when you get to Reichart, he'll draw you a card as well, which is great advantage. But I'm poor. Rite of Aramasir is still $40, so I will not be getting that anytime soon. Visas Starfrost is also kind of because I'm poor. With Visas Starfrost, you really want to be running it so you can make Barone with it and Reichart, but I don't know how necessary that is. You really just want to go into Tri-Heart, so at that point it's just sort of another extender. The only reason I can see it is Visas Starfrost gets Lightheart out of the extra monster zone, so that you can put IP here with Lightheart still on the field to be able to go into Tri-Heart later. That's the only reason I see for playing Visas. Plus Visas is like a $20 card, and I'm trying to keep this budget friendly. Because, who wants to play stupid expensive cards at their locals? Save that for the YCS or something. But those are the choices of the cards I'm not playing. And that's about it. I will take this to locals next week if I get the chance, and I'll report back. But until then, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.